Everyone, welcome to another video. I'm Randy, and this is the 14th in my series where I go through each year. I tell you my favorite album, my favorite song, my favorite movie, and my favorite television show. I started in 1950. We're all the way up to 1963. One caveat is I have to have a physical copy in my collection in order to pick it. Another thing is with the television shows, they are only eligible their debut season. Otherwise, it would be too hard to keep track of. But I will take the full length of the series into consideration. I would also like to say that for the music fans is that I am currently doing a project with Brian on Massey's Main Entertainment, Rich Strickler, and our resident doctor. And we are picking our top 10 songs for various subjects. And I'll put a link in the description below. We just posted one of our favorite songs, including relatives like brothers, sons, or whatever. But go ahead and check that out. And anyway, and also this may be my last series for a little while as I'm going on vacation, but so it might be a few weeks before I get back to the series, but I will get back to it. All right, anyway, let's get going. Joan Jett had a song entitled Make the Music Go Boom, and it certainly looked that way in 1963, even though there's still some great pop and R&B tunes. And let's get to my fourth runner-up for my favorite album of 1963. It's going to be the Jerry Butler album, Need to Belong. This is a 2-4 compact disc. I actually showed Aware of Love for last year, although I do have the vinyl of that one. I do not have the vinyl of this one. But anyway, Jerry Butler is one of my favorite voices in music, and it is his sophisticated yet raw style that gave his pop hits a mature quality that others did not. Need to Belong was written by his Impressions bandmate, and it's a great title tune. Impressions bandmate Curtis Mayfield, I should say. Giving Up on Love was the biggest hit. This album title was later changed in 1964 when the song was released as a single and it became a big hit. Make It Easy on Yourself, a Burt Bacharach, Hal David song. He does a great version of that. Whatever You Want. And he also has the best version, I think, of Moon River. Need to Belong. My third runner-up is from the Beach Boys, and it's Surfer Girl. This was an Analog Productions. Of course, they were on Capitol, but yeah, this Analog Productions one sounds amazing. But anyway, Brian Wilson was kind of expanding his songwriting skills on this album, as well as production abilities. Highlights include the title track, Catch a Wave, Little Deuce Coupe, and In My Room. Yeah, great album by the Beach Boys. My second runner-up for Album of the Year is Night Beat by Sam Cooke, called Mr. Soul. This is another Analog Productions, and it sounds great as well. You see him on the back. But I would call this the sophisticated sounds of Sam Cooke that really highlights his voice, and it is quite a voice. He has a nice variety on here, tackling some jump blues, straight ahead blues, and traditional tunes. A great group of musicians help him out with this one. It's kind of got this late night sounding affair. As he talks about, it was just about closing time when he was talking to Sam Cooke. But he's got some great musicians on here like Barney Kessel on guitar, Hal Blaine on drums, and 16-year-old Billy Preston on organ, among others. Just a great album, Sam Cooke, Night Beat. Oh, and Sam Cooke was on the RCA label. Of course, this was a reissue. Anyway, for my first runner-up, a group you may have heard about, it's the debut album by the Beatles, Please Please Me. They were on Parlophone. But wonderful debut album with a mixture of covers and Lennon McCartney penned tunes. I Saw Her Standing There, Love Me Do, Please Please Me, and their cover of the Isley Brothers hit Twist and Shout are highlights. It's a great debut, the Beatles. My first runner-up. And my favorite album from 1963 is the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. You see the tunes on the Columbia label. This album distinguished Dylan from the many other folk singers on the scene with an album chock full of great songs. His poetic use of language separated himself from so many of the other aspiring songwriters. It's got like Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, which was also a hit for Johnny Cash. Blowin' in the Wind, also a hit for Peter, Paul, and Mary. Masters of War, Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. It's the classic Dylan album, The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, my favorite album of 1963. Getting into my favorite song from 1963, so many to choose from. And I will put a link below to, if you want to hear the tune. And also I'm gonna put a link below to a cut off each of the albums I chose as well. Anyway, my fourth runner-up for my favorite song from 1963 is from Dion. It's Donna the Prima Donna, song number 10 on here. Unfortunately, I don't have it on vinyl, but the song was written by Dion and Ernie Maresca, who co-wrote several of Dion's hits. It's a song about a girl that couldn't be true and is stuck on herself. He even says that she wants to be Zsa Zsa Gabor, which is kind of a knock on Zsa Zsa, I would imagine, but just a fun song by Dion, Donna the Prima Donna. My third runner-up, I did show the album earlier, but I wanted to highlight it's Giving Up on Love by the great Jerry Butler, which this is a compilation album put out by Charlie, and this was my introduction to Jerry Butler. It's a great album, has all his VJ songs on here, but I don't know if you can, it's hard to tell with this writing on here, but it's the last tune on here. In fact, they called it the album Up on Love. But anyway, it's a great uptown soul ballad brought to new heights by Butler's rich baritone voice. That's his recounting of his failed relationships and how he's going to give up on love before love gives up on me, he says. The song was originally recorded by Aki Aliong and released in 1963. The version of Jerry's album, Need to Belong, was released in 1964. The single was. The album came out in 1963, which is why I'm including it. But anyway, then they changed the name of the album because the song was a hit. But interesting thing about the original artist, Aki Aliong, is I just watched an Outer Limits and he was on it because he was also an actor. But his version is not as good as Jerry's, I have to say, though. Anyway, Giving Up on Love, Jerry Butler. Jerry Butler's former group, The Impressions, have my second runner-up, and that's the song It's All Right on this Collectibles Impressions compilation album. There's the three of them right there with Curtis Mayfield right there. But anyway, the song was written by Curtis Mayfield, and he was the lead singer, and it was their most successful Billboard hit. It's a great tune about leaving your troubles behind. I like the stuttering guitar, the riffing horns, along with the backing vocals of The Impressions, and of course, Curtis Mayfield's singing. Just a great album. My first runner-up is from the Beatles, and it's I Saw Her Standing There. Written by John Lennon and Paul McCartney and leading off their debut album. It includes the count-off, as producer George Martin thought it would give the song a live feel. It was later released as the B-side of I Want to Hold Your Hand and became a hit as well. Just a great tune. You know, you put this record on and I Saw Her Standing There leads it off. You know, you're in for a treat. The Beatles, I Saw Her Standing There, my first runner-up. And my favorite song from 1963 was actually from Roy Orbison, and it's the tune Mean Woman Blues. This is a compilation album. Of course, he was on Monument, the all-time greatest hits of Roy Orbison. Just a great compilation album. The song was written by Claude Demetrius, Elvis released a version in 1957, but I think it is this, the definitive version. I think this is the definitive version, if I'm trying to say this right. But it was the B-side of the ballad Blue Bayou. But if you flipped it over, you really got a treat as Orbison just attacks this song with his unusual fervor. And we also get some great sax work by Boots Randolph. It's my favorite Orbison tune, and just a great one at that. Mean Woman Blues, my favorite song from 1963. And now to movies. My fourth runner-up is Charade. A wonderful Hitchcockian suspense thriller directed by Stanley Donen, who's mostly known for his musicals. It was just the right amount of humor, romance, and suspense, and Cary Grant was born for these roles. It also has some great character actors and great parts in Walter Matthau, James Coburn, and George Kennedy. And the lovely Audrey Hepburn also stars as the one trying to figure out who to trust. Just a wonderful, fun film, Charade. My third runner-up for my favorite movie is High and Low, directed by Akira Kurosawa. This is the Criterion Collection edition of it with spine number 24. I'm a rebel. I do not file my Criterion DVDs and Blu-rays by their spine number. But anyway, it's a great suspenseful crime story that includes a kidnapping and some strong moral questions that are raised because of it. Toshiro Mifune stars as the executive forced with this moral dilemma created by the kidnapping that threatens his livelihood and his conscience. Supposedly, this movie helped to change the kidnapping laws in Japan. The second half of the movie is a police procedural, and a very good one at that. Just a wonderful Kurosawa movie, High and Low. My second runner-up is from John Sturges, The Great Escape. Epic wartime suspense film concerning prisoners in a German POW camp during World War II. It's a fictionalized account based on real events. It's a long film, nearly 3 hours, that seems to just fly by and has a very famous motorcycle chase scene. It has an unbelievable cast with Steve McQueen, James Garner, Charles Bronson, James Coburn, and Richard Attenborough. Just a great escape film, The Great Escape. First runner-up for my favorite film of 1963 is Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. Hitchcock could find suspense in the most mundane and also in the most innocent in nature, like Birds. With Psycho, Hitchcock proved that he could make a great horror film, and he even doubled down on the thrills and suspense with The Birds. Even now, if I see a bunch of birds together, this movie comes to mind. It is probably the Hitchcock movie that made the biggest impression on me as a kid. The Birds. My first runner-up. And before I pick my favorite film of 1963, I want to reiterate that these are my favorite films, not necessarily films I would pick as the best movies. I know like 8.5 is a seminal work, but it's actually not one of my favorites, although I do admire the craftsmanship on this movie, and I do enjoy it. I just have some others that I like more. And my favorite film from 1963 is going to be, and it's in this James Bond set. There's like 4 of these sets that came out that were really nice. And it's From Russia with Love. These were really great sets that came with 2 DVDs, one just full of special features. But anyway, the movie was directed by Terrence Young. I'm a big fan of the Bond franchise, and this is probably my favorite Bond film, with my favorite Bond, which is Sean Connery. It also has 2 of Bond's best antagonists, henchmen in Robert Shaw, with a great fight scene on a train, and Lotte Lenya with her stiletto shoe. Of course, some may know Lotte Lenya. She is referenced in the song Mac the Knife, which is written by her husband. But anyway, Connery gets some great one-liners in this, but shows more emotion than most of the later Bonds, I thought. James Bond, From Russia with Love, my favorite film from 1963. Now for my favorite television shows from 1963. Couple that didn't quite make the cut, but I like to show my television series, and that's one of them is The Dakotas, which only lasted one season. They had the great character actor Jack Elam, Chad Everett in an early role, Larry Ward, he played the marshal, and then Mike Green as well. Yeah, interesting Western series set in the Badlands of the Dakotas. And also a great variety series. Here's Edie, who is this Mrs. Ernie Kovacs. She was also the Muriel Cigar Girl, but had some great guest stars, but that didn't quite make it either. Great television show from 1963. The fourth runner-up is My Favorite Martian. This is a complete first season. This is a nostalgic pick, as I loved this show as a kid, and I still find it entertaining. Ray Walston stars as the Martian, stranded on Earth and befriending news reporter Tim O'Hara, played by Bill Bixby. Ray Walston's character's idiosyncrasies and special powers seem to always put Bill Bixby's character into embarrassing situations. A charming comedy, even if you can't see the strings moving things in this early TV series, but it's still fun. My Favorite Martian. My third runner-up is Burke's Law. Always surrounded by beautiful women, the series starred Gene Barry, who was also Bat Masterson. He was the millionaire LA police captain who was chauffeured around in a Rolls Royce and solves crimes. The show had a who's who of guest stars and some fun crime cases. Gary Conway is pictured right here, and Regis Toomey in the middle right there were his two detective sidekicks. With the third season, it changed to a spy drama, Amos Burke, Secret Agent. Don't know about that. And it was later revived in the 90s as well. But yeah, just a fun series, Burke's Law. Second runner-up is Petticoat Junction. This is the third season. The show starred Bea Benaderet as Kate Bradley, owner of the Shady Rest Hotel, and her lazy Uncle Joe, played by Edgar Buchanan, whose schemes always seem to backfire. Of course, for many of us young lads, it is the Kate Bradley's daughters that held our interest, with two of the daughters changing during the series. This is the second. There's Bobby Joe, right here, Lori Michaels, which was probably my favorite. She was actually from Kansas City, Missouri, born here. But Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres were two other kind of rural series on CBS. Beverly Hillbillies started the year before, and Green Acres started a couple years after, but a lot of the characters interacted between the series. But yeah, wonderful series, Petticoat Junction. First runner-up from 1963 is The Fugitive. Many know the movie, which was based on this series about Dr. Richard Kimball, wrongly convicted of murder, sentenced to death, and when his train derails, he escapes. The series revolves around the people he meets as he searches the country for the real killer. David Janssen is great as the fugitive. The series lasted 4 seasons, and the series finale was one of the all-time most-watched television shows. The Fugitive, my first runner-up. My favorite television show from 1963, The Outer Limits. This is a Kino Lorber collection, really good. They have, I'm not sure if they have audio commentary on every episode, but all the ones I've watched so far. But anyway, often compared to The Twilight Zone, it has a unique intro where we are told that our TV sets are now under their control. It differed somewhat from The Twilight Zone in that a greater emphasis was given to science fiction. As you can see from previous winners, I have an affinity for this type of program. It also had some of the scariest monsters for that time period. Yeah. My winner for 1963 for television show, The Outer Limits. Thanks for watching. I really like seeing your picks on the comment section, as it always gives me other things I need to watch or think about. So please leave your comments and list your favorites from whatever section or all of the sections if you want to. Thanks, everyone, and hope everyone's doing well, and take care. See you in 1964 in a little while.